Hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of the Always Be Testing podcast. I'm your host, Ty DeGrange, and I'm really excited to have Guy Yalif on today. Hey, Guy, what's going on?
Hey, Ty. Thanks for having me. Excited to be here with you.
Absolutely, absolutely. We've had some awesome conversations, and I'm super excited to dive into things with you today. So,
Me
for
too.
those of you who don't, so those of you who don't know, Guy is amazing. He's got an awesome background. He's the CEO of Intellimize, and I'm gonna pass the mic to him so that he can share, a little bit more about his background because it's super interesting.
You're awesome, and it's been great to have the many conversations we've had over the years. But my little story started as an aerospace engineer. I thought I was going to design airplanes for the rest of my life. Spent half of college coding AI to do so, and loved the idea. Then did a brief stint in consulting, and then spent a decade as a product guy, where I was super duper happy that if you're good at tech and like business, like those two come together in product. Randomly ended up in marketing about 10 years before starting Intellimise, and then started this with two guys I've known for 20 years. And I'm honored and having a phenomenal time with an amazing group of people and a great culture.
I love
And so
that.
in
I
one
love that.
form or another have been testing and optimizing experiences for 20 years.
Wow, wow. There's so much to dive into there. Maybe I've got to just kind of double click on, how did the aerospace thing come about?
I was relatively geeky as a kid. I liked computers. I was, teaching myself to code, and then went to college and started as a CS major. Enjoyed it, but I mean, this will sound really silly, but nothing against the folks that were doing CS. I wanted just more contact with other people because we were always in front of our screen. It was less collaborative than it is nowadays. It was very solo then. And so I looked across the street to the engineering quad, and there were a couple of options, and doing something that went and made £1 million object with 1 million parts float in the sky. That sounded cool to me. And so I did that. I
That's
got to
sweet.
combine them with the coding of AI.
That's amazing. And so it sounds like you were really, AI has kind of exploded recently, obviously, but it sounds like you've been involved in AI for a very long time relative to the recent boom. Is that accurate?
I think it's fair, yes, and I think it's I think great for everybody to have AI exploding now in public
Mhm.
consciousness in how it can help us be more effective in business, and it's a new kind of AI. The AI I was doing back then was called an expert system, which is a relatively simple form. There have been many other kinds of predictive AI since then. The Gen AI we have right now truly is something new. How it was like the year of mobile for 10, 15 years, and then it was everywhere. In my humble opinion, this really is something different, but
Yeah,
it is a new thing. AI has been around for a long time.
yeah. It's really fascinating and a good reminder for people that are trying to make sense of it and learn about the basics and where it came from and where it's going. That's super interesting. Um, what are maybe we could start by inspiration for Intellimize a little bit and kind of what you guys are doing, what you guys are up to kind of set that for people. Tell us a little bit about how it all started and where you guys are going with it.
Uh, um, it started by being the target customer and living the problem. I was had the privilege of running marketing at a programmatic advertising company called Brightroll. And we had a team of 35 in marketing. We're spending a low 8-figure budget every year. And we optimized that budget to the nines. I mean, shame on us if we didn't, right? We were doing programmatic ads. Drove all that traffic to our website, where my tail and my head of demand gen's tail were on the hook to go deliver leads to a hungry sales team. I asked my team 2 or 3 times, hey, go do A/B testing. Go use this thing called Optimizely that had just come around. And they didn't. 3 times in a row. There was no disrespect there. They had said, oh, hey, we think these other things are more juice to be squeezed. And I was like, why did that feel hard to them? And then I looked at A/B testing and was like, this is brilliant. And in ads, we started with something like A/B testing, where you pick the thing to show everybody, right? When people bought, for me, the metaphor to ads was clear, where you used to buy in display ads, like, I want to buy that spot and I want to show this thing to everybody. And you figure out the right one to show. And in my mind, that was sort of parallel to A/B testing. Then the industry evolved to search, which was the best intent revealer in the world at the time. And you would say,
Mhm.
if someone looked for this term, show them that thing. And in
Mhm.
my mind, that's a lot of what we all now call personalization, right? It's based on
Mhm.
rules. But in programmatic advertising, you give a machine a bunch of creative, it figures out the right ones, combination of them to show to each unique individual. It shows the good ones more, starves the bad ones of traffic, and optimizes for a goal the marketer, the one who's paying for the whole thing, cares about. It's just better. And that's why, 80, 90% of display ads moved over there. And while that's a whole story arc in ads, I actually think the same story arc should be, and now with Intellimize, and is applied to the bottom of the funnel, where 1% of our energy and 1% of our budget goes, but almost all the money is made.
It's such
So
a yeah,
So
it's such a
I,
critical
I
part of
worked
the
with Jin
chain.
20 years ago, and oh, I'm sorry, there's lag between us. I'm sorry about that.
No
Um,
worries, no worries.
I'd worked with one of my co-founders like 20 years ago, and he and the other co-founder had run the Yahoo homepage back when it was the most popular page on the internet. They ran a several hundred person team that used ML to personalize it at scale. Billion user profiles, 100 million visitors a day. They then created the content recommendation system that was used across all of Yahoo and then productized off Yahoo. And we were like, all right, well, these are the right backgrounds to go after this. This flavor of ML, this background. So then we went and talked to, literally, without exaggeration, more than 100 marketers to see, is there there? Before we left our secure, high paying jobs. And there's clearly a problem to be solved here. Always be testing is something everybody should be doing. Just like, 20 years ago, having a paid search team in your ads team, maybe you would have it. Now you wouldn't even think about not having that. I think conversion rate optimization and testing and personalization should be the same. And I think they will be at some point.
Yeah, near and dear to me as well, and seeing how few teams are really applying enough resource, time, energy, thinking, hypotheses, all of that to the landing page and the homepage and the PDP experience and various pages. It's just so it's a huge opportunity. And maybe just sharing a bit more on the Intellimize front. What are you kind of seeing, with the use case of the product? What are you kind of seeing with some of the benefits that the brands are seeing from utilizing Intellimize?
So they are able to run A B tests, do personalization using rules, create infinite number of landing pages, use Gen AI to auto generate landing pages or copy, and then use the AI optimization that does what we were talking about before. What have they been getting? Very simply, more money for the same amount of creativity, same amount of effort. Um, you
Yeah.
know, Drift tested 121 variations in less than 90 days. A B2B brand being able to do that in A/B testing with even good B2B brand traffic, like, it just can't happen. They drove
Wow.
129% lift on their most important landing page. Gong got 25% more MQL, Sumo Logic 53% more trial signups, Dermalogica doubled their add to bag with subscription, which is their most important thing. LaserAway tried 2,600 variations. They had, literally, if you multiply out all the possible combinations, billions of versions of their site with not a tremendous amount of traffic, doubled the lift on their most important page. And so, same humans, same creativity, a lot more money,
Love
and a
it.
lot more
I,
insights along the way.
Yeah, I love that. It's fantastic. Do you think you would have started Intellimize if you hadn't had that marketing experience?
I don't think so. Because I was very much thinking about product. Maybe I would have thought about something like Launch Darkly, or some of the other server-side, product-oriented folks. I, from the outside, perceive Optimizely made that shift too, right? That they were focused on marketers with a client-side solution and then said, no, we're going to focus on product and development teams. Maybe we would have gone in that direction.
Yeah, that's super interesting. And I think the bright role experience is interesting too. And were there kind of ahas? You kind of touched on it a little bit, but were there ahas or learnings from the bright role experience that really kind of stuck with you, that kind of led you down this path as well?
Yes. So there was the metaphor earlier about programmatic ads. Okay. The just as big or actually bigger was, we liked to talk about our features. Like most, we had a DSP, a marketplace, and an SSP. Like most DSPs, we had a thriving business based on buying media for folks that was really an arbitrage business. We wanted to be SaaS. We wanted to be in a software business. So we built a DSP and we're trying to sell that. So we wanted to talk about our features. And we had competitors who, like most in MarTech, just lied and said things that weren't true. And so we were really focused on that. All that was secondary. What really mattered was, what are our customers trying to achieve? Focusing on that, obsessing over that. The more we talked about that, the more we talked about helping them do the thing that their MBOs or OKRs are tied to, helping them do that easily, helping them solve the frustrations of the day. On the one hand, it's like motherhood and apple pie, right? We all believe that. On the other hand, if you really look at what we generally put out there as B2B marketers, it tends to be that a lot less of the time than we think it is. And at least when I poke, most of the time, it's not because we're not sharp people. It's not because we don't care. It's because the deep, intimate understanding of a day in the life of our customer actually isn't in the org enough. And that takes, in my humble opinion, just heavy lifting, just time out in the field, just time listening to a zillion calls, joining a bunch of them. It's not something you logic your way to. It's something that emerges from lots and lots of customer interaction, and that leads
Mm-hmm.
to better engagement with the market. I also think it leads to better products.
The customer interaction and customer insight piece is, I think, so amazingly valuable. Were there some conversations that you were having with customers that you kind of like recall back to, maybe not verbatim or recalling exactly what was said, but were there some that really stick with you in terms of kind of informing the Intellimize mission?
So for Intellimize specifically, it was the experience internally being mirrored externally. But if I may, the one career long wise that sticks out the most in my head was actually working with my co-founder, Jin Lim. The other one's Brian Webb, but Jin and I were working together, leading most of Yahoo's small business 20 years ago, selling websites. And when I joined the business, we and all of our competitors had come out of telcos, actually. This is 2004. Most companies, the website was a new thing. And we were serving very small businesses. I mean, 40% of our customers were sole proprietors. 85% were 5 employees or fewer. So this is like VV SMB. And we thought the game we were playing was a feature function checkbox war, right? Coming out of telecom in the early OOs, you were like, literally, when I joined, the first thing that we did was to take, I'll get the numbers wrong, but it's directionally right. Take a dashboard that had 100 features on it and make it more easy to find, because now we have 200 features on it. So we did that. And then we talked more to customers and we're like, actually, I think we're solving the wrong problem. And so it's literally the only time in my entire career we stopped everything in the entire business unit for 2 weeks. And for 2 weeks, we listened to customer calls. We literally followed me home. We didn't actually creepily follow people home. We asked for permission to go see them where they were working and watch them do stuff. And we watched them say, God, I really want to do X. X was literally on the screen in front of them. But they were like, I don't know how to do this. And then we'd see them do stuff with like yellow sticky taped to the side of the screen, stuck to the side of the screen. And it helped us understand that they actually don't aspire to learn all of those features. That's actually worse for them. For that particular customer at that particular time, the ideal product was to stick money in one end to get leads out the other, because they were busy running a business. They didn't care to learn any of the stuff we aspired to teach them. And so after that, we completely turned around the product strategy. We took away features. They were now hidden in the background and created a highway up the middle that was much simpler, much more prescriptive, much more opinionated, that was right for 80% of the people. And for the other 20, they could go click the advanced button and go see all those other things. That we grew customers from a few 100,000 to a couple million, revenue from 50 million to 115 million in the course of like 2.5, 3 years. We're fortunate to win Yahoo's highest internal honor, the Superstar Award. And that, to me, like when I think about really intimately understanding a day in the life of your customer, that's the experience that sticks out for me the most.
Wow. That's mind blowing. And just to clarify, was that what company was that with? I was just trying to make sure I tied those two together.
Yahoo. Sorry, went down the wrong pipe.
No,
That was at Yahoo.
take your time. Okay, cool, cool. Wow. Wow. There's that level of customer development work is so interesting. How much is that kind of part of the ethos of what you've been able to do with previous to Intellimize and then now with Intellimize? Are you applying a similar, I mean, obviously it's a very different market, different segments, different use cases, but are you applying a similar customer development methodology to the Intellimize customer segments?
Yes, between Yahoo and here, I had the privilege of working at Twitter for 3 years before it went public, Brightroll, which then got acquired by Yahoo, and then here. At all three of those previous roles, in very different stages of companies, had the privilege of putting in place basically ways for market feedback to make it into our messaging and our product, and was one small cog in very big machines. But, at Twitter, I had the privilege of joining when there were like 10 or 20 people in the ad business. And so that was one stage. At Brightroll, there were, the company was about 600. And then at Yahoo, that was like a 2,000 person sales team. And so very different ways to implement it practically and to get buy-in, but very much about hearing the market and getting to pervasive underlying needs and pains, which doesn't equal necessarily the words that came out of the customer's mouth. And at Intellimize, we aspire to have customer feedback washing over us all the time. Like we've had very thoughtful people say, as one example, can we please list every request we've gotten for functionality from every customer and tick a box every time somebody repeats something? And I said, no, I don't want to do that. I literally did that. It was on me to do it one time in the past, and it was torture. Not for me, for myself and everyone around me. Why? First, the requests are like this crazy Venn diagram. And so like you've got this altitude problem that frustrates everybody. Second, you're like, wait, was that a real signal? Was that not? Most importantly, more important than all of that was the stuff that matters. If you have market feedback washing over you all the time from sales, from CS, from your own interactions in the field, you know what's important because you're hearing it all the time. It just emerges from the top. If you don't have regular customer interaction, then you can't rely on that. Then you might need that ticking. But if you've got it all the time, you'll hear it. You'll hear what's driving the conversations. And so, no, we didn't. We just have it regularly coming back all the time. And so I feel, for example, at Intellimize, privileged to work with a team all the way through to engineering. Like engineering does not get excited about, we built this beautiful ivory white tower that we envisioned in a room with really smart people. They are really smart. They do envision great things. But what gets them fired up is a customer getting up on stage and saying amazing things about us. That is the definition of success. And to watch their faces light up when a customer writes another review or literally does get up on stage, which very fortunately they do regularly, like that's cool. And that to me culturally aligns with exactly what you were talking about.
I love that. That's so amazing. I'm super interested in how that level of customer centric focus um, is instilled in the engineers and various parts of the team, at Intellimize versus maybe what you've seen in other roles. Like how, as a leader and founder, how did you enable that behavior? Was it hiring great folks who were already super customer centric that were highly technical, great engineers? Was it combination? I'm curious to learn how you cultivated that because that's really That's such a powerful comment.
It's forever imperfect and can always get better. And yes, we screened for it, but for us, we just made it part of our culture, and we said, hey, look, culturally, we value a handful of things. Um, Customers are true north. Literally, like that is why we exist. Success is not having the privilege of incredibly smart people giving us more money in fundraising. It's not revenue. It's customers getting up on stage because everything else will follow. Two, we want to create the best professional experience of our lives. We value our teams and want this to be transformational for them. We're also then humble, empathetic, logical and data driven, and proactively transparent. And those six things, we the magic to them being part of our culture is that there's no magic. They're not like, we've all worked in places where you've got the set of values up on the wall, and if you don't like them, don't worry. In 6 months, they'll change. You'll get another thing to slap on your prox card, and you're supposed to remember those. This isn't that. While we deeply value diversity of perspective and have wildly heterogeneous perspectives on the team, our values are the same and enduring over time. And I think it's one of the few things that really does come from the top. Like, for me, it's a scaling mechanism. I view those values as ways for the 1,000 decisions, let's say an engineer makes every day, they make better ones because they know those values, right? If the question in their mind is, should I be short-term greedy to go, get a customer to go do something that might not be ideal for them, but will get us more revenue today? Or should I be long-term greedy and really delight that customer and know that that will produce better things? This helps guide that answer. We use it in all hands. We use it in recognizing people. I'll use it in decision making regularly in front of the team. We have to model the behavior. And so it's really people seeing that it matters through the behavior of others. And then that's at this size. At larger size, there were quite formal mechanisms to, like at Yahoo with 2,000 salespeople, they had very strong opinions. And they had some of the typical problems that, larger orgs will have, not specific to Yahoo, where sales was like, product never listens to us. Product never builds what we need. They never build it fast enough. And a lot that goes with that. So instead to say, hey, sales, you have a very strong voice now into product. Product will hear you. You do not have power of God, which was a key distinction, because it's like, you do not own this roadmap or this messaging, but please rationalize your point of view. Come up with your point of view on what you wish would happen, and product will hear you and respond to you and tell you, this is what we chose to do and why. To have a conversation like that, sales on the one hand was really surprised product really did hear them, and on the other hand, found it incredibly hard to rationalize their point of view. They didn't actually internalize that different humans, different sub-orgs within sales, like they had wildly divergent opinions. And to force them within that org to resolve it was like, that was really interesting to watch that play out, because that's what product and marketing we need to do afterwards anyway. And to say, hey, speak with one voice, very different. That's completely irrelevant as a process at Intellimize, given the different sizes of the orgs.
Wow. That's super interesting. I love the, emphasis on really like living and breathing that culture and knowing that, those standards and those core values are not shifting or changing. You're living them, and the great orgs do that well. Something we're always trying to improve in our org and so many others. It's spot on. You talked a little bit about AI earlier. Fast forward to now, maybe give people some frameworks of like debunking some of the stuff in AI. I'd love to get your perspective on, obviously how you're applying it in Intellimize, but how can you help kind of guide some folks out there that are maybe making some fallacies in how they think about AI, Gen AI, various parts of what's happening right now?
Maybe a couple. Cut me off if this is too long or the wrong altitude. I think the biggest one right now in the market is that AI equals Gen AI. We talked about it a little bit earlier, but I think there are at least two parallel paths where AI can help us today, and more ways are likely in the future. I think the first is automation in various flavors. I mean, that's the AI that's been around for decades. We are used to talking about AI and automation, and I would posit that You could frame it many different ways. I'll propose that there are 3 levels of it. Level 1, straightforward automation. The simplest AI augmentation where you take some rote task that a human was doing and have a machine execute it repeatedly, quickly, on time, 24/7. It's typically in the form of the, if this happens, then do that thing. And, frankly, a lot of companies who say they're doing AI today are actually doing that. Marketing automation platforms are a good, very useful example of this. So is ABM, very useful. ESPs, right? Email service providers, hugely valuable. Level 2, you could say, is analytics, where AI began to look through huge piles of data and surface the interesting insights so that people could act upon them. Some MarTech companies who say they're doing AI today really do this, where they might say, here's an audience that's important, it's outlier compared to the others, human, you should go do something different with them, maybe personalize for them. And level 3, I would argue, is taking action. Eventually the AI has matured to a point where the human marketers trust the AI's conclusion so much that AI will analyze, make decisions, and take action. And for example, programmatic advertising is an example of that, right? It chooses the ad to show people. It chooses which one to show it to. It chooses whom to go show things to. Separate path, creation, generating stuff, right? We are in that seminal moment of transition where you can now create text, images, video with them, improving by the week, by the month. And that has not yet risen to that 3rd level where you can let it take action on its own, right? I think today all of us agree, most everybody agrees, it's an excellent first draft creator. It's really helpful and it can speed a bunch of other things. Humans still need to review it. Perhaps one day it will get there, and then you'll have something that, is both taking action through the predictive analytic, taking action and generating net new stuff to do that with. That'll be pretty interesting. So in my mind, that's one of them. And most of the time when I hear people talk AI today, they just mean Gen AI. The other one is that everybody saying they do AI is telling you the truth. Many companies promise high growth based on AI. Unfortunately, some are just outright lying. Recent study quoted by the Financial Times said 40% of 2,800 European startups claiming to do AI had no evidence whatsoever of AI based on public information or interviews with execs. And this stat came before the current year's super excitement over AI, where venture investment went hugely into AI. So even more companies were doing that. Fine. Many companies are doing if this, then that rules based, which is genuinely helpful. It's not what many of us think about AI, where a machine is learning and then doing stuff on its own. Other companies, something to think about is they're doing AI, but it's really data scientist as a service. And by that, I mean, you get some really smart, really highly paid data scientist who's manually building and tuning a model, super useful. They push that model out to production, so we get benefits from it. And then they go work on the next model and the next model. So it's refreshed annually, every quarter. If you ask how often is this model refreshed and you get answers months, quarters, weeks, you may want to look for systems that have machine learning training the model on its own. Ours updates every few minutes on its own with 0 human intervention. And so it's not that the other folks are fibbing, but it's probably not what you think it is, and it's worth digging into.
Yeah, what a great answer. There's so much there to dive into, and it helps people kind of debunk what level of sophistication in AI, what level of AI are we talking about here? Is it algorithm? Is it manual models? Is it true machine learning? That's a really good distinction.
And if I may, it's not the practical implications for us as marketers is that if the AI is recommending stuff for us to do, we have to do it. It limits our scale. If the AI is doing it on its own, great. It can go move more quickly. If the AI is doing it on its own and updating itself regularly, now it's responding to changes. Now it can react to the fact that we're running a promo or launching a new campaign or hosting an event. And that matters to us. So while, the AI person in me might be like, well, that's more pure. Practically for me as a marketer, I'm like, I might not care if that's more pure. I do care that you react to my promos. I do care that you react when I'm running an event. It's a short-term thing. I do care that you're acting on your own at 2 a.m. when I'm asleep. Those things practically matter.
Yeah, that's, I love it. I love it. Kind of shifting back to the, Intellimize use cases and the testing that goes on for brands through the platform. Are there there's obviously so many elements that can be tested, right? You got copy, you got CTA, you got a number of things, right? What are some when you think about it, is there certain elements that are more impactful than others? Are there certain elements that the AI and the tech really nail? Is it everything's created equal? How does your team think about that? What are some of the learnings that have come out of the elements to be tested?
Phenomenal question that our customers ask us regularly. And by the way, the palette you have to draw with is basically everything. Yes, you can change words, you can change images, you can change layouts, you can change interactivity, you can hide stuff, you can pre-fill stuff, there's a whole bunch you can do. Our experience so far is that the answer to the question is it depends. There isn't a rule. If there was, like if we knew every CTA in the world should be red, we'd all go do that. And so I think, always be testing is there because there is not one determinate answer for everyone. That having been said, the two rules of thumb, one, people actually have to see it, right? You may optimize something further down on the page and our customers will regularly want to do that, but then it'll have an impact on 5%, 2%, 20% of the people because people aren't scrolling down that far. And so there's definitely a rule of thumb of like, hey, further up on the page, right? The first place we encourage people to go experiment is the hero, is above the fold, just because people see it more. So it'll have more of an impact. The other one is a general rule, but absolutely not a firm rule. And that's simplicity wins. We Drift had their most important landing page was like this long, right? Different sections. And they, by their own description said, and have said so publicly, like it wasn't literally page by committee, but like other companies are well used to that, right? Oh, this team thought this was really important. This team thought this was really important. And the solve was to put them all on a page. They tried a radically different page that literally was like one screen, handful of words, one field. That's it. I don't remember what the stats were, but they were phenomenal. It might have been 200%, 300%. I mean, it was like a huge positive impact to take the risk and try that. Simplicity mattered there. But it's not always true. LaserAway publicly talked about they provide skincare beauty services. And so people will come into one of their hundreds of stores and they're trying to get people to set up appointments online. Okay. They have a survey on their homepage where they'll say, what are you interested in? And we tried changing interactivity and logic to ask more questions, not fewer. And probably all of us that are testing all the time would say, yeah, that's a bad idea, right? You put more steps between starting and somebody saying, yes, I'm interested. It was much better, dramatically improved engagement and signups. Our hypothesis about why people felt like LaserAway was going to customize the service better for them. When they feel like I'm going to take more time and I'm going to get something out of it, that exchange seemed, in general, we've had other customers try the exact same thing and it didn't work, but in general, did lead where more complexity there to a limit was more beneficial and bucked that rule of thumb that simpler is better.
I love it. That's phenomenal. Founding the company, building, growing. You guys are now in scale mode, right? I mean, it's kind of the
Very
stage you're in.
fortunately, yes.
Yeah.
We're very
How do
fortunate to
you?
work with companies from Fortune 500 down to small agencies.
I love that. What are what are some like leadership principles that you've drawn from to kind of allow you to kind of continue with that and bring in the right people, maintain the quality, um, and grow to the size you're at now?
I'll step out of the flow for a minute. I missed literally the one word. Was it leadership principles?
Yeah, yeah. Leadership
Okay, perfect.
principles.
I'll jump back in.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Um, our culture embodies the answer to that. When people ask me, as I ask every boss I've ever had, what's your management style? What's it like to work with you? The answer is our culture, and that living that consistently all the time, that has been the approach. Some other things that aren't directly embodied in there, like we cherish diversity of perspective. And so and we believe it produces better business outcomes. So we've gotten really good at, wait, Ty, you and I, we just totally disagree on this thing. All right, well, we're both assumed to be excellent at what we do. That's why we're here. So there's none of the wait, are you qualified to say this, or are you playing political games? Because we're all aligned on where we're going. So then it's got to be, we have different experience, different data, or different underlying assumptions. And we've gotten good at teasing those out. And typically there's insight in there. And so 98 times out of 100, we will walk out of a room aligned because we've sussed those out, rather than the normal fighting that'll happen in larger orgs. Again, I'm stereotyping, not every org works that way.
Sure.
And those other two times, it probably means either path was fine. We'll pick one, align on it, and go. That's been a big one. The other one, it's been, for me, one of the biggest joys has been somebody 2 weeks in saying, thank you. You weren't lying. You meant what you said about what it's like to work here. That fuels my soul. Or another one is, they'll join and they'll say, oh, blah, 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 about what we were talking about in this meeting. And I was like, why didn't you say that? They said, because I haven't earned the credibility. And I said, that's not a thing here. Again, back to that earlier thing. You're assumed to be excellent. You might squander that credibility, fine, but just go run. and the transparent, creating psychological safety so that people feel comfortable saying it like it really is. Whether that's, hey, Ty, I think you really screwed that up. Or, hey, Ty, I really screwed that up. Or, hey, Ty, I really disagree with you. For it to be safe to do that, I think it makes all the difference in the world. I think people enjoy work a whole lot more. I think we're able to attract talent that, could go to much bigger places, make a lot more money, but they are happier in an environment without all the games that are normally played. And I think we get more done. I think we make better decisions because of it. That you have to nurture every step of the way. And so I'm always thinking in a conversation, is something they're asking reflective of them not feeling psychologically safe? How can I try to not disarm, but help address the lack of safety things so that we can get at the business thing that's underneath? That's always on our minds as an executive team. Those are some of the things that come to mind. But our values, really living and breathing them every day and talking about how we work and being consistent on those, has been a huge part, because we've all worked in places where, leadership says X, and, when push comes to shove, they do Y.
Yeah, there's a great unification of the integrity and just straight up alignment and simplicity and accuracy there. I love that. We're certainly really welcoming feedback and candor, and something I think we've, fortunately, similar to what you said of those first 2 weeks employee, we've gotten some good intel on that, just candid feedback from people that said, hey, I feel like I can actually speak up here. And it's not easy. You don't always nail it, and definitely something you're always trying to improve. So that's an awesome perspective.
That sounds joyful for your team. That's really cool.
Yeah, we're chipping away at it, always trying to improve it. So appreciated that. Um, what about jumping into some fun questions around things that have inspired you? Is there a book or a resource that changed your perspective on a topic?
Um, Humbly submitted, I think most business books suck. There are two that I particularly enjoyed. One was years ago, Get Real, which was written by the team at 37 Signals, which created Backpack and a handful of other pieces of software. And it fundamentally was about really rapid iteration for small teams to deliver great products. I think the principles are certainly applicable there. I think they're also applicable in much larger places, and finding the right level of customer insight, the right balance between gold plating, building the perfect thing, and duct taping, just getting it done for now, and finding that balance. I think it's really useful in thinking about that. And the book itself is written very nicely. It's basically a concept per page. It's not some big tome. It's very short. The other one is Atomic Habits, which I know lots of people like. I found it a really insightful way to make changes in your behavior one small step at a time. For me, frankly, that was more applicable outside of work than inside of work, where, that like, I wish I moved my body more. I wish I did like some, ate differently. And it was quite helpful in taking one step at a time and framing those steps differently, which, at least for me, being an engineer, came really naturally at work, right? Here's an untractable problem. You break it down. But at home, I for some reason, would not apply that same thing. In this book, I found particularly actionable.
That's fascinating. I think sometimes people assume that if you're doing XYZ in this area of life, it's applying to everywhere. And I think it's good and healthy and okay to kind of admit that, it's not always functioning at that level on all areas of life. And it's understandable too. We're operating at a high level on, the work front, and you're aiming for a lot of things. And so there needs to be some give. And I love that book. I love hearing your perspective on that book because people mention it a lot, but I love your perspective on it. What about an
Did others
item
have
that
very
you
different takes on it?
you know I'm not recalling number of the takes on Atomic Habits. I'll have to recall back to some of mine, but I think for me it was the getting into the repetitions and recognizing that it's not a willpower thing. You just kind of have to set up the environments right to make it fun, make it easy, make it somewhat programmable, and then you just execute, and you don't have to think about it. So I like your approach of like the division between. It's always a hard balance between life, work, family, health. It's no one hasn't necessarily figured it out. What about something you've purchased or like a product that you kind of rave about that you want to share with the audience?
That's this thing right here. My Aura ring. My wedding ring is in a safe at home. Yep, you're wearing one too. I enjoy quantified self. I believe that which you measure gets done in general. And
Hmm.
although I've been wearing it for 4, 5 years, I still use it every day, every single day. That feedback loop on how did you do? And my family made fun of me for a while because I'd get up and they'd say, "Oh, how'd you sleep?" And I'd say, "Hold on." And I'd look at my phone and I'd say, "Well, the numbers say," and they're like, "No, how do you feel?" And they would laugh at me for a while. And so that there's some truth to that. But generally, what I felt was correlated. I was blown away in the beginning when it was like, "You ate late last night." I'm like, "How did you know that?" Or "You had a drink last night." I'm like, "How is that knowable?" And now they keep adding new things. Oh, what's your stress level? How are you recovering? Should you work out hard today? I found those things super duper helpful. And so it really does, that feedback loop is very helpful for me. How about for you? How long have you been using it?
Gosh, I had the Whoop a while back. I love the software they provided, but it was a little pricey and it was earlier iteration. I think they've since improved it. I stopped using that for the cost factor, and then I think my wife was getting excited about Aura and interested in it, and I think I got it for us as a gift together. I think it was maybe holiday time. I want to say a couple years ago, maybe 2.5 years ago. Um, I lost it. I got it back, found it again. Um, and I like that you don't have to take it off. I like that you can jump in water, no issues. And the sleep scoring is just really good. It has improved significantly. And I like when it kind of, when you feel like you're dragging and they're like, "Hey, by our measures, you're actually good. You actually slept well." Or conversely, you're kind of like feeling okay and you're kind of rolling and you're trying to attack stuff as you normally would, and they're like, "Hey, you need to kind of take it easy today. Your heart rate's elevated." So I mean, I think it's exciting to see where it can go, and I'm a huge believer in that, and having some agency over your health and the metrics that you're measuring. I'm not probably at the quant level personally that some are, but I am checking it nearly every day. And I love that, hey, good. It helps a little bit to kind of say, okay, let's try to eat a little healthier. You can just see that impact of a big dessert. sweets at night, or eating later, or having a drink, it definitely makes a pretty material impact. And sometimes you kind of look at it and go, oh, okay, it's not the end of the world if you don't you're not perfect in your sleep, but it's a good barometer. I love it. That's so cool.
Yeah,
Um,
and you don't have to charge it every night, which I particularly like.
yes, yes, you can. I've charged it a couple hours, and then it's good for multiple days afterwards. It's not nearly as yeah, resource intensive. So, um, what about something that your audience may not know about you that you want to share with the group?
I have fallen way down the Formula One rabbit hole. It combines a bunch of things that I really like: aerospace, mech, business, competition. I mean, it's a game where you have 1,000 people who have to execute at the top of their game to win a 90-minute race by like 3 seconds. Um, that I find fun, and it teaches me. I've liked sports. I realized I've never actually liked a sport because it's the first time in my life I'm like, leave me alone. I need to watch this for 2 hours. I've never had that passion for a sport before, and I'm enjoying it a lot.
That's awesome. That's awesome. We'll have to connect next time you're in Austin for the F1 series here.
I bought that jacket at Austin last year.
There you go. There you go. Is that your representative, your favorite team, or who is it?
Given when I joined, it was easy for Lewis Hamilton and Mercedes to be my team, and it'll be very interesting to see what happens when he goes to Ferrari next year. Will he be like Fangio, who was able to win
Man,
world championships at multiple teams back in the 50s, or will he struggle?
I love
I
it.
think he'll do it.
I love it. I was rooting for him at the Austin event. I was fortunate enough to watch, and I don't follow closely, but I do find it fascinating. I love it.
If that race were one or two laps longer, he would have won.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. It's kind of a photo
Where were you
finish with him
sitting?
and Verstappen, right?
Totally. Yeah, we were at turn
Uh,
15. You?
I think we were turn 8. Yeah,
That is so cool.
yeah, it was fun. We were fortunate to somehow stumble into kind of like a semi VIP area, even though we definitely weren't VIP. So we were like, all right, well, we don't seem to mind, and it worked out okay. We had a lot of fun.
Super.
Yeah,
We were in vanilla grandstands and enjoyed it a ton.
yeah, it's so great, so great. This has been amazing, Guy. Your experience is just awesome, and it, talk about a perfect conversation for the namesake of the pod. Always be testing. You live it, you breathe it in your company and your experience, and just thanks for sharing openly about everything. It's been awesome.
Ty, it's a joy to talk with you every time we connect, whether it's on something like this or in person. Thanks for the conversation. Thanks for hosting this. This is a important thing for our community to be able to talk about and learn from each other on a regular basis. Pleasure to join you.
Thank you so much. For those that want to learn more about you, where would you suggest they go?
Please ping me on LinkedIn. Would love to connect.
Heck yeah, man. So cool. Well, thank you so much, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks, Ty. Talk to you soon. Bye.